evening and welcome to Meticulous Moments. My name is Juanita Kapp. You can reach me at meticulousmacarons@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege to meet a wide array of fantastic individuals. These individuals have truly touched my life in so many positive ways. Amongst this group of people, there are authors, public speakers, life coaches, poets, leaders, and visionaries. They are the unsung heroes of our time. Therefore, I decided to start the Meticulous Moments movement out of a sense of my gratitude. It is my way of giving back to the community. Let us share and reshare their stories in an effort to build a better society. Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Meticulous Moments again for another wonderful session. Today, we have the privilege of spending time with the wonderful Don Callahan. He is truly an exceptional leader and friend. A little bit more about Don. Don comes from Ontario, Canada. His leadership journey has been filled with interesting twists and turns. This has led him full circle and he has found his calling in servant leadership. As a current police veteran of 23 years, Don has spent his career serving his local community through the lenses of public service. 4 years ago, he ventured into the unknown and became a co-host of Mo Monday's Waterloo, a monthly motivational event aptly known as a night of inspired entertainment. How wonderful. Don has written an illustrated children's book named Hazel, Grace and the Magic Blanket, which has taken his personal development to a whole new different level. Don is an international speaker and can be found spreading inspiration at live events, podcasts and virtual coffee meetings. Don is in the process of launching another heart-centric project involving an inspirational, motivational clothing line. You can reach him at info@inspiredminds.ca. Really, Don is an exceptional human being. Enjoy this session with us. Welcome, Don Callahan. Good day, Meticulous Moments. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is just an amazing audience that always, view our recordings. We are so blessed to have you. And today we have the privilege of spending some quality time with the amazing and wonderful Don Callahan. Welcome, Don.
Thank you so much. I feel honored and privileged to meet with you and your audience. So hopefully we're going to have some fun today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for making time for us. I know it's going to be an amazing session. Now, I know you, Don, because we had a fantastic virtual coffee and we met in the interim as well. And we shared, a lot of information. And I consider you to be one of my friends now because you're such a wonderful, open-spirited person. But the audience would love to know more about you.
Wonderful. Well, where can I start? I'm coming to you from Ontario, Canada. I grew up in Canada, married with 2 grown children who've left the nest. So my wife and I are empty nesters, and we're just working towards our retirement in another 2.5 years.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Your children are all grown, empty nest, but I know there's never a dull moment because I've seen, with you, there is always a good conversation at hand. So I'm sure you and your wife have a lovely time together. And you mentioned that it's a bit cold there today.
It is. Today everything is relative. So here in Celsius, we're at, I think, 17 degrees.
Oh, okay.
With kind of misty. Yesterday was beautiful and hot. Today, a little bit of rain is scheduled for the days, so we need it.
Yes, of course. I was thinking now, as you were saying, normally when I speak to someone abroad, they measure the temperatures in Fahrenheit. So then, we're always trying to figure out what's the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius. So most of the time, 99% of the time, we grab our phones and we Google, what would that be in Celsius? You just knew off the bat what it would be in Celsius. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Canada works on the Celsius and metric system. So when I talk to the rest of the world, they have no idea. They think it's close. Right?
I love that. Don, please elaborate for us on where your leadership journey started. I mean, it is evidently clear you are a strong leader. You're someone that has, empathy with people. You want to uplift the community. And that's why you're such a wonderful guest on this show, because at Meticulous Moments, we want to facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And we are so honored to have you. Where did your amazing, fantastic journey start in leadership? What was that one defining moment?
It's interesting you ask that, because it wasn't like I woke up and one day I decided I wanted to be a leader. I think it's something that was born within me, that now at my advanced age, looking back over my life, I can see different moments and glimpses where leadership started to grow. And for me, that was amazing. I think a lot of that started just with my relationship with my father. He was very community-minded, did a lot of things for the community, and I saw that. But wow. I can think back to examples in school, for instance, and I found most of my leadership came from volunteer activities. That was key. Yeah, and it just started to blossom, and probably 2017, 2018 is where I really found some good spiritual growth with it.
It's the first time since I've ever asked that question that the answer was it started with volunteering. That is so wonderful because it connects to community, giving of oneself, time, expertise, resources. Thank you for that answer. And you have a heart for volunteering and for community and, just uplifting others, elevating them. I've seen that, during our engagement. So I really appreciate that. Now, I have a very interesting question. And I have no idea what you're going to answer. And the question is, if you had to describe yourself in a sentence, what would that sentence be?
That's a very deep, introspective question to ask. To put it in a sentence, I would say I am, a family man, proud to support my family, based in love of God behind it all. So,
a family man based in love.
Yeah. I don't know. That's to me, family is everything. So whether it's blood family or not blood family, there's that connection that you make, and I lean on that every day.
What you're saying is so true. And I had a live the other day, actually in this week, and the topic was discussing communication and what the difference is between communication and connection. And I said in that session, it was a live that we had through StreamYard, I said, there's a difference between communication because anybody can communicate. But connection is not the same thing. Connection means something else. And that is, really to start to get to know people, really to meet them at their leadership level, their emotional needs, to be open-hearted. And I also said, I feel that that's a 3-step process. It's we communicate with our words, we communicate with our body language, which is difficult to discern these days because we are virtual, but still we can. But then you go from communicating to communicating effectively. Are you really open to that person? Are you reading between the lines? Can you read what's not being written? Can you hear what's not being said? And only then when you start to build relationship, can you connect? And it all starts with that open heart, that receptiveness. And where do we learn these things? Where do we learn to connect initially? With our family. It's a dynamic within family. So I agree with you, family is very important, but I have to add, I have lots of people that are my family that's not my blood relatives. And that's amazing. Is it the same for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And that
I'm sorry. I was going to say I've got some great friends, and I find it interesting that I have, and my wife and I both have a core group of friends that we had, 30, 40 years ago. Wow. We moved away from them 25 years ago. And whenever we're able to connect with them, it's like we've never left. So there's our friend group that are kind of on the outside. They're outside of the circle, and they're nice to know, but our core group we need to know, and we spend so much time with them. And it's you just walk in and pick up where you left off, and it's beautiful.
I love that sentence that you use, that phrase. It's nice. Some people are nice to know, but some people you need to know. We can take that out into other parts of our existence as well. Sometimes it's nice to do things, but do we need to do things? We can elaborate on that on so many different areas. And talking about family, there is one person that you and I both love very dearly. He's like family to me. And I'm sure he's family to you, because the first time he and I also connected, we talked for hours. Like if they would left us, talking, we would talk for 5-6 hours, but that day we talked for 2 hours and we're really connected. It wasn't just communication, it was connection. And you know who I'm speaking about. His name is Gordon D. Melville, also known as the long-bearded guy. I have no idea why he has that nickname. Maybe you can tell me. Please tell us about your friendship with him. I would love to know how it started.
Interesting. People come into your life, and you never know why they're there. And it takes time to develop and actually connect back. And so when I talk about people that are nice to know and people that you need to know, I met Gordon at an event, I think it was in Detroit, Michigan, in the US, just in passing. Someone said, Don, you're from Waterloo, Ontario. Gordon is from Waterloo, Ontario. Maybe you guys should connect. And Gordon gave me a business card at that time. I left this event, a couple months went by, and I found this business card. And I said, I wonder what this guy's doing. I'll give him a call. So we decided to meet for coffee. And that coffee turned out to be 3 hours long. And
I know how that happens.
He's definitely an engaging individual. And we connected on so many different things. At that time, I had been working, creating a children's book. And I was at a point where I needed to find a publisher. I had never gone down the route of being an author. I was doing it as kind of a joke or a pay it forward to a friend of mine to create this book. So it was a really low budget is what I had. Slightly above zero is what I could afford. And in conversation, just off of the hop, he tells me that he's a published author and his book is coming due. So right away, I need to know about this. Long story short, he puts me in connection with his publisher, and my book went forward, and amazing things happened out of that. But a few weeks later, he connected with me, and he had said that he was asked to speak at an engagement where he actually bought a table of tickets for 8 people, and he would like my wife and I to attend just to offer support in this public speaking forum. So we traveled to a city just maybe 40 minutes away. Never been to this type of an event before, and it was totally amazing. He got up and he told a story of his life and something that was very meaningful and impactful to him. And my wife and I fell in love with this venue. And it's a venue that happens once a month. So every month we would go back and we would other speakers. And probably 3 months into it, Gordon says to me, it was an event called Mo Mondays, which is a motivational Monday evening.
Yeah.
And it's a franchise that's set up. You buy the franchise for your city. The opportunity for our city, Waterloo, became available. And just off the cuff, Gordon says, how would you like to host it with me? Why don't we buy into this franchise? And and this is blind faith, right? With no previous background in this kind of business, with no understanding of it, we jumped, right? Sink or swim, into the pool we went. And that's 4 years ago, I guess, 4 years. I think we've just passed. And I've been loving that ride ever since. So with that, Gordon and I are very close, obviously, from a business perspective, but also from a heart-centric friendship where we connect. You know, everyone is busy, but we always make time, probably twice a week, to meet for a coffee that always ends up 3 hours later. Right?
Yeah, I was just about to add that coffee is not a 30-minute event, I'm sure.
No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, that's my connection with Gordon.
Amazing. And you know, when I look at the two of you, I looked at some of the links, you know, of your road trip again, and there is just such a fantastic synergy. I mean, nothing is scripted. You just flow, you know, it just flows continually. That is amazing. I love that. And I also thought to myself, you know, the fact when you were speaking now, the fact that you just took that leap of faith, it shows both of you are leaders, because I always tell people, leaders do not fear the unknown. It was something that you hadn't done before, and you just jumped and you did it. And that's an example to the younger people and to other leaders, you know, that sometimes we have to, as leaders, take risks. So how important do you think it's for leaders to take risks, as we are talking about that now?
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because as I look back over my life, that would be something I would shy away from.
Yeah.
Right. So through growth, through my own personal development growth, I realized that opportunity knocks on everyone's door. Some people don't hear it, so they never answer that door. And I looked at this as opportunity knocking. And really, that's how it came about. He just said, I want to ask you something. And I went, okay, how would you like to partner with me? And we'll purchase this franchise. And I said, I have no experience. And he says, neither do I. And I went, okay, let's give it a go. Because we knew the result from the Mo Mondays event was so fulfilling, personally fulfilling, right?
Absolutely. Wow.
So I think, getting back to your question, you have to, and I mean, obviously, don't make calculated decisions, but don't be fearful of them, right? Right? Yeah. You have to weigh it out. Don't make a bad decision, but at least entertain the decision. Don't brush it off right away. So I've seen that in a few things in my recent years as my leadership journey grows. So. Yeah. Beautiful. And knowing you and Gordon, there's always method in the madness. I mean, there's always a reason you guys do something. So it's amazing. Yeah. It's really good to hear that. So we should take calculated risks, always weighing up the pros and the cons, but not being fearful. Because leaders really pioneer, you know, they go the extra mile, they do the extra research, they put in the extra time. And I remember from our virtual coffee that you mentioned that you had a dojo at some point. Yeah. Would you like to tell us about that? I would love to hear more. Yeah, and again, this really comes back to answering the door when opportunity knocks. So as a teenager, I had always been interested in the martial arts. I had a good friend of mine that influenced me in the martial arts, and I kind of went out on my own little journey, found a dojo and a club that I enjoyed that kind of met my expectations, and because everything is right, no two dojos are the same.
Yes.
Fell in love with it, and what I enjoyed about the karate that I do is the self-growth and the self-confidence and all of that came into it. And I mean, I'm just a little fella. I'm not a big imposing individual at all. So a lot of it really helped build my character. And I went through the ranks. Opportunities came within the club. Oh, I need someone to help teach the children's class. Oh, can you fill in on this class? And I slowly built my background that way, to the point that an opportunity came with the local community. They would run like parks and recreation type stuff. You could go there for swimming and tennis and whatever else. They wanted to start a karate program. So I was referred to them, right? I didn't chase them. They knocked on my door and I answered the door. And that just blossomed into a full-time dojo. Well, I say full-time. It was part-time, but I was there 5 nights a week. Right?
Oh, lovely. That makes it full-time.
And that went on for probably close to 10 years. And I loved it. And for me, it was always about the kids. I started with a very strong children's club, and I was known to be a children's instructor. Wow. I think maybe just the way that I can relate well and communicate with them. But eventually I would say, hey, mom and dad, you're here watching. Why don't you come in and practice? Then you can go home and practice with your child. And then all of a sudden my adult program blossomed to the point that the kids would go off and do something else, hockey, baseball, and mom and dad are still there, which was wonderful. And to me, there was a time I had to give up the dojo because I moved. I was moving out of the province, halfway across Canada. And I looked within my organization and found a phenomenal leader that graciously took things over for me. And that club is still running, and that's 25 years ago. So,
wow. And you started all that. You know what I was seeing? Because God speaks to me in pictures. You know what I was seeing when you were articulating that so well? I saw all these dominoes just falling into place, like, there they go. And that was your journey. It just all went like that. And that is still going today. So the dojo is still up and running. Yes. I agree with you. The self-confidence, the self-mastery, I'd call it, for a lack of a better word, the self-development. That's the essence of martial arts for me as well. Mm-hmm. And I had to chuckle when you said that you were there 5 nights a week, because the dojo is my second home as well. If I'm not home, I'm in my other home, the dojo. So that's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible what you've built there. It changes you and it teaches us. And also, you and I are both small in stature. And it teaches you not to be scared of things or people that are bigger than yourself. It teaches you those techniques, and that we can carry also over into leadership. To not fear situations that are bigger than ourselves. So I always say karate must be a subject in school. They need to take whatever form of karate and put it as a subject in school. If the children want to continue after school, it's their prerogative if they want to stop. But the discipline, the life lessons, the self-development is just, it's something that only martial artists will know what that is and what that feels like. And we need to bring that to the community. So I find you again busy. That's where it started. You got involved in the community. And that shows your strong leadership. Now, you mentioned to me what style you did. What was the style again?
Yes, it's called Chito-ryu karate.
Oh, Chito-ryu.
Yeah.
I love it. I do Shorin-ryu, but I've heard of Chito-ryu before. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know we talked about that journey, but reflecting back on your questions on leadership, around the same time as a 17, 18-year-old, I had a love of motorcycles.
Wow.
I wanted to I'd always been a dirt bike guy, driving through the woods and stuff. But when it came time for me to get a motorcycle license that I could drive on the road, I wanted to take a safety course. So in the province of Nova Scotia, where I was growing up, they offered a safety program, and it would be 2 nights a week for 3 weeks, and you'd be tested, and you could earn your license that way. And I went through that, and I really enjoyed it. And I had met some connections with the instructors and so on. Well, next thing I know, I'm being asked to come back to train as a junior instructor to help other people learn. So I did that. I mean, opportunity knocked on this door. I didn't seek it. I followed it. I said, I have no idea. I've never taught, adult level things before. And which is different, right? Teaching adults is different than teaching children.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I started as a junior instructor. I advanced to become a senior instructor. From there, I became chief instructor of that training site. And within 4 years, I had opportunity knocked again with some provincial government changes and regulations. This program then became privatized with a company, the Nova Scotia Safety Council took it over. Now, this was brand new for them. Driver safety training was new. They would typically do things like for workers, workplace safety and things like that. So this was new. I had no idea what was happening. So they asked me to put together a proposal. I'd never done a proposal before, so I put it together, what I think my time and effort was worth, and I was awarded. I was awarded the role of provincial coordinator, which then led me to have 41 instructors and 9 different training sites throughout the province in all the inventory and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, at the end of the first season, because we only have, with our winters and snow, we only have a very short riding season. The organization came back to me and they said, thank you for what you've done this past season, but we so underpaid you. Like the value that you brought, you weren't paid enough. And I'm like, whatever, I had a great time. So that rolled into 2 more years as kind of a part-time deal, and they just whatever I wanted. So at the time they had leased a motorcycle for me, and I'd gone through the season, and they said, do you want a motorbike again for next season? I said, well, that was good for me. It's coming back to family, right? Motorcycle was good for me, but it really didn't help my family. I've got a wife and 2 young children at the time, still in car seats and things like that. And they said, well, what do you want? I said, well, I could use a van because then I can bring supplies to the different training areas and all that stuff. So I said, okay, go pick out a van, keep it under this dollar amount, and away you go. So they did that. So I had this work van, which was wonderful. Now I fast forward to a point where I'm changing my career direction and I'm going to have to move to Central Ontario for work. But I was leaving my wife and children behind because the job hadn't settled. I hadn't found housing, all of this stuff. I went back to this organization with the van and I said, unfortunately I have to leave. And they understood that. And I said, I can give you back the van. And they looked at me and they said, well, your wife is staying? I said, yes. How about she just keeps the van until you guys get settled and move?
My goodness. Wow.
No, there was no other connection other than the trust, right? And respect, I guess, that we had built. Right? I said, wow. So I drove halfway across the country in our old beat up car, and my wife came back with the family van until it was time to move, like 4 months later. So yeah. Wow.
Now I have a question for you after listening to this now. Don, do you see the pattern? Look what happened at the dojo. Look what happened with the motorcycles. I mean, wow, that's amazing.
And you don't notice it in the moment.
Yes.
Right? I didn't notice it in the moment because my motive was never what the outcome became. right? So even when I look at the Mo Mondays aspect, Gordon and I, there's potential, there's income potential, right, in everything you touch to make money. Gordon and I set up Mo Mondays as a charity, well, not as a charity, but as a not-for-profit organization. And any money that came in above our, basic expenses, we donate it back to charity. So one month it might be a mental health awareness month. Yes. We would bring somebody in from that organization that could talk to our audience on stage, and open that up for charity. Plus any of the proceeds that we had, we would donate. Heart and Stroke Foundation, same thing, right? And we did that month after month after month. And people shook our heads. I know my wife sometimes would wonder, like, you're spending all this time, let's see some money. Right?
Jerry Maguire moment. Show me the money.
Yes, exactly.
You remember that movie?
Tom
Cruise.
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
I love it.
Funny. Yeah.
Yeah, because I understand, because your time went in there. Your time, your energy. And I'm thinking that because you made it a non-for-profit and you sowed into the community, and really organizations that needed the funds, look how the other areas of your life prospered. Wherever you went, whatever you started, whether it was a dojo, which I love karate, whether it was motorcycles, which I also loved. I love that because I learned also to ride a dirt bike. It was a Yamaha YZ250. And I told you earlier, I'm short in stature. So the joke amongst everyone was, when I get on the bike, I need help to get on the bike because my feet do not touch the ground. And then I would ride until I fall and they'd come and help me up again. But whatever you touched, dojo, motorcycles, just exploded. And that says something about your leadership skills. The proof is in the pudding.
Thank you. I think the important thing is I never started anything with that intent. It just came through, right?
Yes, it's natural. Yeah. Amazing. I always tell people it's an anointing. When you see that, it's an anointing.
I know we had mentioned a little bit about the book, this children's book, and I don't know if you want to get into that at all.
I would love to. I almost forgot about that. Please share that with us. The audience need to hear this, please.
So in late 2017, my full-time job, I'm a police officer in Canada. And at that time, I was working helping to supervise in our communications branch. That's where the 911 center is, and our dispatchers are all in there. And there's one young lady dispatcher named Hazel. And I had always nicknamed her Hazel Grace because she's just such a shining light of a person. And the spirit and calmness that she would bring to a chaotic world was just uplifting. She often traveled for spiritual growth, for emotional growth. She would travel to predominantly Africa, where she would meet with a shaman, and they go on retreats, and she would learn and grow. One day at work, it was complete chaos, and I'm walking the floor, and I go by Hazel's, workstation, and I just shook my head. She was away, and I said, "Man, I just need a little Hazel Grace here to calm things down." And at that moment, I thought to myself, as a joke, I should make a children's book about Hazel. Just, I say a joke, but I mean out of respect, just how much I appreciate her. So that stuck in my head till the next day. And I said, if it's not a passing, fleeting thought, there must be some substance to this. Mm-hmm. My educational background is in English. I've also got a background in advertising and marketing. I wanted to be a fine artist at one point. So all of these things are playing into point. And I said, I got to do this kid's book. It'd be hilarious as a children's book. And I wanted to reflect upon the fact that she travels to Africa all the time. She's told me many, many stories about her trip to Africa, or her trips to Africa. And she's originally, she was born in St. Kitts, so the Caribbean island. She comes to Canada where it snows, it seems like forever, and she's always cold. So she always either has a heater turned on in the building, she's got a jacket on, or she's wrapped up in a blanket. So I decided to write this story called Hazel Grace and the Magic Blanket. And it was going to be about her exploits. But I needed to find an artist, and I didn't have one. I had gone to a friend. She was too busy with her graphic artwork to do it, and it kind of sat on the shelf for a little bit. And then, completely unrelated, I'm having a discussion with one of my other dispatchers who tells me that her background, she is a trained illustrator. She'd gone to school to be an illustrator, but she didn't like that idea or that industry because it was very fast-paced. You know, the job comes in today, it needs to be completed by tomorrow, and you're on to the next project. She goes, she goes, I want to spend time creating my artwork. So I let her in on this secret, and she's yes, let's do this. So the only people that knew about this were myself, Samantha, the artist, and our spouses. The only 4 people knew about this project. And it took almost a year for the artwork to be completed and everything to come together. And then that brings me to meeting Gordon Melville, and that connection to find a publisher. So this all worked out. So yeah. So I get the book published, and I'm dealing with my publisher, and she says, how many copies would you like? And I said, well, really a dozen, because it's just kind of a fun thing to do. And when I looked at the price points, it was more cost effective to order many books. New book. So I ordered 300, and the day came, the books arrived, and we were going to surprise Hazel because she had no idea. And the day they arrived, she went to Jamaica on another spiritual retreat with a shaman, where they were bringing people in from all over the world. So we had to put it off. We pushed it another week. Her first day back to work, we all go out for lunch, and we're at a local restaurant, and Sam and I are sitting on one side of the table in the booth, and Hazel's on the other side. And she's kind of concerned because, one, it's her first day back. Things in our field, our industry changes quickly. You never know what's going on. I'm her, quasi supervisor. It's weird that I would be meeting her for lunch. And in my hand, I've got a big brown envelope, and I can see she's concerned. Maybe there's a career plans for her. So we sat down across from her. We tried to express how pleased we are with her, and as a human in general. And I pulled a book out, and I slide it across the table, and she looks at it, and she pushes herself to the farthest corner away from the book in the booth. And that was the only time in a year that I thought maybe this wasn't a good idea. Oh. She's not being receptive at all. She's sitting on her hands, literally. She wouldn't touch the book.
My goodness.
And I was like, oh boy, this isn't good. I've got 300 copies, right? All these
Christmas presents for that year.
So I say to Hazel, I said, Hazel, a friend reviewed this book and thought it would be a wonderful book for an ESL class. So I don't know if you have ESL classes, but it's English as a second language class. So new Canadians will come and take this to help understand our language.
Wow.
And Hazel says, her brow gets all furrowed, and she says, well, you know my background. I said, I'm sorry, I don't. She goes, I'm a trained ESL instructor. I was like, didn't know that.
Wow.
So she won't have anything to do with the book. And she had looked at the cover, and, Hazel Grace and the Magic Blanket, and it's got a picture of an African printed blanket on there. And she had said that this is an epiphany for her. She wasn't ready to tell me about it at the moment, because I've got to let things calm down and we'll talk about it. So I opened the book, and there's a quote at the start of the book. And I was torn between two people. One was Eleanor Roosevelt, and one was Walt Disney. And I'm knowing it's a children's book. And I know the kids love Disney. And I'm thinking Walt Disney, the kids can relate to. But for whatever reason, I was drawn to put this Eleanor Roosevelt quote in.
Wow.
And she looks at the quote, and she furrows her brow, and she glares at me. And very accusingly, she says, "How did you know about this quote?" I said, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
She goes, "This quote is hanging on the wall in my living room." I had no idea.
Wow.
I don't even know where she lives. Like, I have no idea, right? I was like, "Ooh, this is really strange," right? So then she tells me about the epiphany that she had when she saw the book. And she said when she was just in Jamaica, she had gone through an event, a life event for her. And some of the other ladies that had come from all over the world were taking care of her, and they were tucking her in. And they said, "We need to find a blanket for Hazel." So this woman from, I believe it was the Netherlands, said, "I have a blanket in my room." So she goes back to her room, comes back with this blanket, puts it on Hazel and tucks her in. And Hazel looks at the blanket, feels it, and goes, "Is this from Burkina Faso?" And the woman says, "Yes, right, province in Africa." And she goes to sleep, and that's fine. The next day, she gives the blanket back. As the week progresses and it's time for everybody to part their ways, Hazel's at the airport. And this woman that she had just met on the weekend takes the blanket, folds it up, and says, "Hazel, this blanket was meant to be yours," and gives her an African blanket. So Hazel lost her mind when she looked at the cover of this book, and it's Hazel and the magic African blanket.
My goodness.
Yeah.
I love it.
So long story short, and I apologize for stretching this out so long, but
oh, please continue. There's no rush.
that creating that book changed my life, because when we talk about community, I said to Hazel, I go, "There's 300 books that we need to, get rid of." So she was very, very hesitant about mentioning it to people. But when her coworkers found out about it, they all jumped on board. They wanted to make little Hazel Grace dolls. They wanted to do whatever they could to be part of this project.
Yeah.
So about 2 weeks later, we decided to do a book launch. And it was at a local pizza restaurant chain in Waterloo, where the restaurant would give you a percentage of their proceeds for the night, because you're coming in on a slow night, you're bringing in lots of people.
Fantastic.
So we set this up. My wife had loved one of the illustrations in the book, and it's a beautiful picture called The Night Sky. And it is just beautiful black bluish sky. The stars are twinkling, and there's Hazel wrapped in her blanket looking at the stars. And the wording in the book is something similar to imagine the stories the stars could tell if the stars could talk, right? And my wife saw that and said, "This is such a beautiful illustration. It would look lovely on the bedroom wall of a little girl's room." So I mentioned that to the artist, and I said, "We should do some as a limited edition print." And she was like, "No one's going to buy any of those." I'm like, "I'm going to buy one for sure." So he did a limited edition of 25 prints. That was it, 25 signed, numbered prints. I said, "I would like to take the very first one and auction that off at our book signing." So come the night of the book signing, I've got this in a beautiful frame. It's all mounted lovely with a mat, and it's on a big easel on display. There's Sam, Hazel, and I were set up to sign books, and it was all word of mouth. We went from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., and we just about sold out of all the books. It was all people, through word of mouth. The majority of them were coworkers and people that we knew through the industry. The point that people would come in and they go to the hostess at the door saying, I'm here for the book signing. And they're saying, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait. There's no tables available. And they would look.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they say, I know those people. Can I sit at their table? They've got a chair.
Yeah.
And just talk about community. It was beautiful. So at the end of things, my purpose was never to make money from the book. Yeah. My purpose was to pay it forward to someone that I dearly care about, who's making an impact and a change in the world. Yeah. So I made one of those giant cardboard checks, made payable, Hazel Grace, for the proceeds of the sales, which was wonderful for her to give to her charity, which was linked to her mission in Africa. And then from there, of course, now I'm out of books. I have to do this again. I did another one. I traveled back to my home province, almost 2,000 kilometers away. Did another book launch there. Same sort of thing. And it has snowballed to the point that my wife and I, we're in the third printing of this book. And my wife and I, whenever we travel, and we travel a fair bit, we always bring with us. And what I think is amazing, one of our trips, we were in a beautiful place called Weston, Florida. And it's a nice little resort area. We were at a local pub, and I had a T-shirt that had a Hazel Grace character on it. And the young waitress asked me, what is this about? I tell her. She goes, I would love to get a copy of this book. I said, no problem. I'll run over right now. My resort's right next door, the hotel, and I'll bring it back. So I did. And here she is, this young 22-year-old girl. I guess maybe I'm dating myself when I'm calling, she's a girl. But I said, I would love to make this out to somebody. Whose name can I put on this? And without even missing a beat, she goes, Bianca. And I said, who's Bianca? And she goes, that's my 4-year-old niece. She has leukemia. Oh, rip my heart out. Right? Of course you can have this book, right? Of course. It'd be my honor.
Yeah.
And that's how it played out. Later that week, my wife is talking with somebody in the pool when we're on holidays. And she's this big, strong correctional officer woman. My wife says, oh, my husband just wrote a book, blah, blah, blah. So she goes, I'd love to get a copy of this book. So, of course, I have to get out of the pool and go up to the room and get this book. And I bring it down, and exact same question. Who can I make the book out to? And this woman, she gets all emotional. She goes, make it out to my mother. I'm like, okay.
My goodness.
She says, my mother gave up on her dreams when she had me at the age of 19. Anytime I have an opportunity to give back and share with my mom for her sacrifices, I do. And books, there's one of those things. So here we are by the side of the pool. We're crying, right? Hazel Grace brought that together. Hazel Grace made it happen, right? And for me, it's been a wonderful journey. I've had people say, you should be doing this, and here's the way you can market it and all that stuff. I go, no, there's magic there. There's magics. Anyway, I know I went way off topic.
I love it. No, we can go off topic. In Meticulous Moments, we are allowed to go off topic. I love it. What you just described, what you just articulated, your testimony of Hazel Grace and the book that you wrote, now that is the essence of community. That is what community is all about. Perfect example. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I almost forgot about that. I'm so happy that you reminded me. I would have felt sad if we didn't discuss that, because every time I hear it, I get goosebumps. I love it. You mentioned when you started, you are in law enforcement, and I wanted to know, how has your role in law enforcement shaped you as a leader?
Wow. So I have been in law enforcement for 23 years. You can tell by looking at me, I started when I was probably 10 years old, because I'm not that old of a joke. But I came to law enforcement later in life. I was 33 when I started, where a lot of my contemporaries are coming in at 21, 22 years old. So I had some life experience, which I think really helped me in my role. But I think, and this is, I think it's unique for each individual that's involved in law enforcement.
Yeah.
For me, I've always been heart-centric. I realize, and maybe it's just my advanced years, that people contact the police because they're in need. They're looking for help with a problem that they can't solve on their own or don't have the skill set to solve.
Yeah.
Right. What other people, I sometimes, I look at it and go, how can you not figure this out on your own? Right. That's my inside voice.
Yeah.
But I have to step back. And I think partially that's maybe the role of the leader, is to put yourself in the other person's view. Why is this person in front of me? Why are they going through what they're going through? Why are they reaching out to me for help? Right.
Yeah.
And when I look at it from that perspective, I think it's more of a servant leadership role. I'm here to, in law enforcement, serve and protect. I'm here to serve and protect. But to me, it's different. I serve differently than just showing up and arresting somebody or writing them a ticket for speeding or whatever that looks like at the time. And quite honestly, I don't think all the other police officers view their leadership the same way. Sometimes people, I think, view leadership as a dictatorship. Right? You must listen to me, right? You must listen to me because I have authority. And I think that's short-lived.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Short-lived, right? If you can't meet a person in any leadership role, if you can't meet that person and grow together, you're not really a leader. You're a dictator, for lack of a better term. You're an authoritarian. And I don't think that's what's needed in the world, right?
Not at all. Not at all. People want that connection that you, for instance, have with them, because you don't just communicate with them. You don't just help them. You connect. You listen to them. You imagine yourself in their shoes, and then you minister to them through your job. And I think that is amazing that you are able to use that skill. And that says something about your soft skills. And soft skills are not called soft skills anymore. They actually, these days, they are referred to on platforms like LinkedIn, professional platforms, as power skills. And to be able to communicate with people, because that's actually something, maybe it can be taught, but mostly it's something that is within the leader already. Something that is just developed over the course of their leadership journey. So it brings me to our next question. What are the necessary tools that a leader should utilize to make a project work, in your opinion?
Well, I think as we started, it's about communication. I think that is probably the number one leadership skill. Leadership, I believe, is built out of trust, and trust is earned, right?
True.
To follow you, I need to trust. So I give you trust, right?
Yes.
You don't take trust from me, I give it to you. So I have to be able to be receiving of the trust that they have in me. And how do I build that trust? I have to build that trust through leading by example, perhaps, by being vulnerable to some extent, depending on the project that you're dealing with. But I think the whole connection piece, the communication piece, the human element has to be there, right? Yeah, and I think that managers manage, leaders lead.
Yeah.
Right? It's important. And a lot of organizations are stuck in the management side of things. Yeah. We always look towards our leader, or the CEO of the company is the leader. Well, really, I think leadership starts well below the CEO. Right? Yes. Right? It can be peer-to-peer. Right? And everybody's on that journey differently. I may look to you as a leader and follow you, and someone else, you may say, oh, I'm not on that same level with this other person. I need to develop skills and connection with that other person so I can also lead them, right? All too often, especially in my world, in my law enforcement world, leadership is hard to develop. Right? It's a lot of management, less leadership, which I think is not always the best.
Yes.
And I don't get political. I don't want to get political with it, but I can only speak from my experience, but I'm sure that it translates over into other industry, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. I wrote a post the other day, a few weeks ago, and I said it was a little bit controversial. I said I've heard of micromanagers, but I've never heard of micro leaders. So when you lead, you need to make sure you lead well.
Very good. I like that. I like that a lot.
And that was something I just put out there. Luckily, I only got good responses because I was thinking, who's going to say what? But anyway, I've got a fun question for you next. If you could travel anywhere in the world right now, I know you'd obviously take your wife because she's your gem, your jewel, your best friend. Where would it be and why?
It's so funny you asked this question because prepping for this interview, I had mentioned this question to my wife, and as I read it, where would I go anywhere in the world? And the first thing my wife says is, we would probably go. That wasn't the question.
You see, I just knew.
And, it's interesting because we do travel a lot. My work arrangement allows me to have a lot of time off. My wife's work arrangement, not as much. So we do travel a lot. We travel a lot to be with family. I travel a lot additionally to do community work, to volunteer. We just came back from a trip abroad, which was beautiful. We went with our son and daughter-in-law to Ireland. We spent 10 days in Ireland.
Beautiful.
Did a little, got our feet wet. We went to Italy for 3 days, and it was just beautiful. So for me, it's a very deep question that you've asked me, because that trip that we did that in June opened my eyes to a different perspective of travel, to learning about other people and other cultures. Now, let me preface that. I spent 4 years traveling to the Caribbean to volunteer. And it was such a it was life-changing for me. We would go to either Cuba or the Dominican Republic with an organization out of Nova Scotia, where we would take Canadian children and we go over there to play baseball. And we bring donations and all of that stuff. And to me, what was the important thing is that the trip was never about playing baseball. Never. That was just on the outside. The trip was really about the children learning to appreciate what they have.
I love that.
Appreciate other cultures. For instance, I'm on the bus, and there's this 10-year-old boy beside me, and he's got his baseball uniform on. It's like $100 for the baseball uniform. He's got his kit bag with his $300 baseball bat, and we pull through one of the small communities, and we're there for a week, and the people are so happy that we're there, and they're there in the moment. And I'm watching this little 10-year-old, and his mouth is open, and he's just staring because he's realizing this is how other people in the world live.
My goodness.
And are happy and content with what they have. So much so that at the end of the trip, he has taken his $100 uniform off that says Canada. This may be the only time in his life he represents the country internationally, folds it up and gives it to one of the Cuban kids.
I've got goosebumps. What an eye-opener. Wow.
And that's how it is. We're not playing under the great stadiums and ballparks. We are playing, sandlot baseball. They don't have cushion from a lawn chair and things like it's crazy. But these and what else blew me away was kids will always be kids will always be kids. So opportunity for some of the Cuban children to come with us on the bus as we traveled back. And they're at the back of the bus with the other Canadian kids. And one of the Canadians pulls out their phone, goes on Google Translate, and now the kids are communicating. Right?
There you go.
English to Spanish, Spanish to English, and away they went.
Amazing.
So for me, that has been life-changing. So when you ask the question, where would I like to go? Yeah. Since the pandemic, I have not been able to travel back to Cuba or the Dominican, where I've got such a wonderful feeling of community. When we talked about family, it doesn't have to be blood. I still connect with them on Facebook, and because I can translate, what I'm saying into Spanish, they can understand what I'm saying to them, and vice versa. And they're wishing me happy birthday and things like that, and it's just wonderful. So I really miss, and I was really concerned during the pandemic to their well-being, right? Yeah. Right. So I'm excited for my next adventure.
Your next, yes. I want to ask, have you told your wife the answer to this question yet, so that she can start?
No, I haven't heard. She has gone with me on one of the occasions with my daughter, and this kind of spins into a nice quick story too. My daughter went with us, and she got to meet the coordinator of this program. So fast forward a year or so later, the coordinator of the program reached out directly to my daughter, who was, I'm living in Ontario, Canada. My daughter's going to university in Nova Scotia. He reaches out to my daughter and says, "Hey, Jen, how would you like to come to Cuba to teach cheerleading?" So my daughter, that is her sport of choice. She became a gold medalist at a world level in cheerleading. And she says to this gentleman, she says, "Well, I can ask at the club if they'd be interested." Yeah. And he responds back and he goes, "No, you don't understand. Cuba does not have cheerleading at all in the country. Because of what your dad has done to help support the baseball program. Yeah. I want you to be the first person to introduce cheerleading to the country."
My goodness.
So my daughter, absolutely. At the ripe old age of 21, we planned a trip and we went back to Cuba, and the donations, it was just amazing. So I brought mats that you would have in a gymnasium that, Velcro and all stick together. I managed to get donations. I got 20 of these things donated. I bring them to the airport and I take them as luggage, and they arrive with me in Cuba. And of course, the customs are going, what are these for? And I'm trying to explain in English to someone who speaks Spanish what cheerleading is, that they don't understand because it's never been brought to the country. It was an interesting time going through customs. But it was life-altering because my daughter Jen put on, one day. We had one day training where she's exposing the young girls and guys to cheerleading through video. We had a translator work with us all the whole time we were there. She had a day off. The next day we go back was my daughter's birthday. And I had mentioned it to the coordinators that it was her birthday. And I got a little ribbon that said, birthday girl or something for Jen to wear. So we walk in, and before anything started, with the help of the translator, the head of the community center comes out. Yeah. She says, "We want to thank you. Yeah. We are so privileged that you're spending your special day with us, being her birthday." Now, in my mind, as a Canadian, that's not what pops in my mind. In my mind, it's like, it's my birthday. I don't want to do anything. I just want to relax and chill. And their view on it is how precious that you would spend this very important day with us and share with us. They give her a bouquet of roses. They have a Spanish boy band singing and dancing for her. And they said, we have one more surprise. And music started, and a door opens, and out come five of the girls that Jen had been teaching. There was, oh my goodness, it might have been 40 girls, but anyway, 5 of them come out, and they put on their version of a cheerleading routine to music, just from what they had learned 2 days prior. So I know that those girls worked on it the whole day. That was our day off, so they could present that to Jennifer. And to me, I was crying. I was like, this is amazing, because I know how much they appreciated it.
I loved it.
Yeah, they appreciate it so much because I don't know if you've experienced Cuba or not. Beautiful, beautiful country. I love it. With the government in place and the political venue, a lot of events that involve tourists or people from other countries, it's watched by the government. So the whole time we had a government facilitator there watching everything that we every time. We would have them show up when we play baseball, right? But here they are watching this cheerleading thing. And at the end of the last day, this female government official gets up and speaks to the coordinator of the community center, and it's all in Spanish. And they started losing their mind, and they're screaming, they're joyous, and all of this stuff. And the translator, she's ecstatic, and she goes, "I have to translate this, you because all the Canadians are going, I have no idea what just happened."
But it looks positive.
So what had happened is this government official is also a ballet instructor at her level. And she was so impressed with the young Cuban girls wanting to learn something as unique as cheerleading that she offered to come to the community center to teach ballet. Because the dance component would help. So here's all these girls that are just, oh my goodness, right? We're going to learn.
Yeah. The excitement, the joy,
Yeah.
And you brought that to the country. You and your daughter brought that to them.
It was all her.
I love that. I just
sat and smiled. Yeah.
I was wondering to myself when you were explaining that you had to now explain to the airport what you were carrying with you. I think that was a very interesting conversation. Did you get lost in translation there?
Just about. Seriously, just about. I was very concerned that I would I'd be taken away. I was interrogated. They took me aside, and it was not a happy time. we left everything, and that was right before COVID hit, 2019. I still get pictures and videos from Cuba, and they're still using the mats. They're using it for dance. They're using it. Yeah, this is literally over concrete, and so I'm glad that we were able.
Beautiful testimony. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know tomorrow I'm going to be busy with something, and I'm going to chuckle about what you just told me, because I always think back to the sessions. And thank you for bringing the story of Hazel Grace and bringing the story to us, because it's teaching us new concepts. It's a testimony. It's something that is based on real life, and it speaks to our hearts. I really appreciate it. And I'm very interested to know who your role model is, or who your role model was when you were growing up.
That's an easy answer. It was my father. Beautiful. My father, he grew up, I'm going to say, in poverty. He was the youngest of 8 children. He lost his father at a young age. He helped support his mother, who passed away when he was 18. She passed of cancer, and he was on his own at a very young age. And he had always of the 8 children, he was the one that, for lack of a better term, was able to get out of the ghetto, to get out of poverty into middle class, lower middle class.
Yes.
And he was very family centric. Everything was having a good family life and raising his children. But his volunteerism blew me away. He started in neighborhood associations. He was instrumental in a local baseball organization, starting for kids. He ended up having a baseball field built, tennis courts built, playground area, and he did it all just because it would be the best for the community. He never made any money on it, and it just went on and on and on. And he, at one point, had said it was time for him to pass the torch, and he got away from volunteering. And probably 5 years ago, he came to visit me here in Ontario, and I always try to keep him occupied with something. So I had signed him up, he and I both up, for an event. And he goes, well, what is this? He was in his, he would have been in his late 70s at the time. I said, Dad, it doesn't matter. We're going to have fun. Come on. We're going to go volunteer. And he goes, volunteer? What are you talking about? Well, our local Special Olympics was being held, the track and field portion of the Special Olympics, and we had volunteered. And Dad says, I have no idea what's going on. I said, Dad, it doesn't matter, right? These kids love just being out here. So we were stationed at the long jump, right? So the kids would run and they jump into this big sand pit. So Dad's role was to rake the sand nice and flat so the next child could run and jump. They were so excited to be out there doing what they're doing. Dad couldn't get the sand clear fast enough. The kids were jumping. But we spent the whole day out there. The newspaper came by, and out of all the events, they take a picture of Dad, and it was on the front page of the newspaper. Dad's out there raking, sand all level. And it was neat to see his eyes light up. And then fast forward your dad passed in 2020, and in 2019, he was here for Christmas. And he was being grumpy, and he was in his 80s. And I said, come on, you're going out with me. And, oh, I know. He's mumbling, grumbling. I said, here, you have to put this on. So he put a Santa Claus hat on. I put a Santa Claus hat on. And we look foolish, and we're driving down the road. And I can hear this horn beeping beside me. This is a true story. And this van pulls up beside me, and I look to my left, and it's Gordon Melville.
Oh, my goodness.
And he's got a red Santa hat on, too, and he's waving his So we pull into a retail store, and I said, Dad, you just got to be happy. Like, he's going, the stores are going to be busy. It's Christmas time. And he's being the Grinch. And I said, no, come on, let's make some people's days. So we go in, and we're very happy and joyful. And all of the workers would come over. What can I help you find? Is there anything that I can do? I'm going, you're doing a great job, right? And because it's very stressful, I would think, working retail at that time. So we leave there. And I said, Dad, we need to go get a coffee. And he's like, okay. So I specifically picked this one coffee spot. So in Canada, the big coffee chain is Tim Hortons. Okay. So Tim Horton used to be he's passed on, but he was an NHL hockey player, and he started this franchise back in the 70s. And anyway, so we go to this. Normally, the Tim Hortons have a drive-through. I specifically went to a Tim Hortons that did not have a drive-through, and we had to go inside. So I said, Dad, come on, let's go get something. So he's okay. So he's standing there, and I'm ordering, and we order our coffee, and I look at the cashier there, and I said, I'd like a gift card, a $20 gift card.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay. So she gives me the gift card, and Dad's watching. And then I look back at the clerk, and I said, here, and I gave her the gift card. And I said, please spend this and help some other people out and make their day, right? Buy them a coffee. And we leave, and my father's shaking his head. He's come from the school of hard knocks. He goes, what are you doing? First of all, what are you giving me money like this? And he says, how do you know she's not just going to keep that? That was his thought process. How do you know she's not going to keep that?
Yeah.
And I looked at Dad, and I said, if she's going to keep it, then she must need it. It doesn't matter to me who gets it,
I love
right?
that.
The act of giving.
Yeah.
So he's scratching his head. He doesn't quite understand this. So he's halfway across the city to another coffee franchise, a different one that is we've got 2 large universities here in Waterloo. And this is right in between the universities. Lots of university kids are coming and going. I walk in, I do the exact same thing. I get a gift card. I hand it back to the cashier. I said, please pass this forward. There's probably somebody that could use a coffee or a sandwich or something today. Now Dad's picking it up. He's understanding what's going on. And he's all happy and got the spirit, right? And I won't forget that. It was one of the best times I had with him, right?
You blessed him with an incredible day.
So your question to me was, who was my role model? Absolutely. Yeah. Right. I've had many role models, but he's the one that I think got the ball rolling for sure.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were telling me this, I mean, we've talked Mo Mondays, we've talked karate dojo, we've talked motorcycles, we've talked birthdays. By the way, I mean, what a lovely birthday your daughter had. Anyone would want to have a birthday like that. Now we're talking a beautiful day out with your dad. Who's your role model? Conversations like these make life worth living. How beautiful is life? I love people. I see, as you are telling me this, I see it unfold in my mind. And I just realize once again how precious life and how precious people are. It's astounding.
I agree.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now I've got a difficult question, or maybe not a difficult question, but it speaks about a difficult, event or a lesson. What was the most difficult leadership lesson that you've ever learned?
Oh boy. I think as a lesson, not necessarily a specific event.
Yeah.
But I think the toughest leadership lesson is it's okay to fail. And I think as a leader, you may have to make a decision that may cause other people to not reach the goals they were looking for, to fail, right? Or to not fulfill what they had expected. And on the flip side of that, having failed many times myself, it's the first time is always the hardest, right? Yes. It's like a child learning to walk, right? They fall down, you encourage them to get back up and take another step. They fall down, and you encourage them, right? And it's that continual growth. So for me, failure has always been a tough leadership reason. But because it has happened, because I'm able to get back up and continue on, I know it's necessary for growth. And I think sometimes people just, they fail once and they close the door and they turn off the light and they don't want anything else to do with it. And they become complacent.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. I agree with that completely. And that is something we should not do. We should not close that door. We should not give up. And it actually leads me to the next question. And our questions are running out because, time flies when you're having fun. But my next question is, what does not giving up look like?
What does not giving up look like? Wow. I think that is reaching your goals. What comes to my mind is how I became a police officer. At a very early age, I had always wanted to be in law enforcement. At that time, you had to be a certain height. I was not that height, and no matter how many vegetables I ate, I wasn't going to grow any taller. So I had this dream that couldn't be realized, right? And I was so discouraged with that. So an opportunity came where the police service in Nova Scotia was looking for volunteers for a community, almost like an auxiliary, but they were really community-based and focused. So I applied, went through testing and all that stuff. And that happened. And it was wonderful because I got to understand a little bit about policing. I get to be part of the culture, but in my heart of hearts, it still wasn't fulfilling, right?
Yes.
Then an opportunity came where they no longer had a height regulation. But
wow.
So I went through 3 days of testing. Big metropolitan Toronto, Ontario, the largest city in Canada. They were doing a hybrid drive on the East Coast in Nova Scotia. I went to that. I did 3 days of testing. And every day I went, I wore contact lenses. The last day I showed up wearing glasses.
Yeah.
And the poor recruiter lost his mind on me. He goes, "You don't meet our vision requirements. We don't have height requirements, but we have vision." So my dream died there. And I just continued with the volunteering. But still, it was a passion for me. This is what I think I really needed. Then an opportunity came that they were doing an experimental or a new type of surgery for your eyes, right? Okay. Using lasers and all of this wonderful things. And I went, all of a sudden, that little flicker of a flame is starting to ignite again. And I'm like, oh, maybe. Things happen for a reason.
Yes.
Halifax Police Service was doing a recruitment drive where they wanted to have a long list of qualified applicants that when an opportunity became available, they could draw somebody that's already trained. And there's a whole lot of politics behind this story, but I went in with, there was, I think, 500 plus applicants. I ended up being one of 33 applicants that made it through. I ended up becoming the class valedictorian of that group.
Oh my God, thank God.
So leading up to that, I had to meet their vision requirements. And I had talked to the sergeant. Now at this point in my life, I'm married, I've got a mortgage, 2 kids, car payments, life is happening. Right?
Life happens.
I got a full-time job. And I said to the sergeant in charge of this recruitment drive, if I go to get this eye surgery, when will it have to be done? And he said, I don't know. What I do know is if the day of your eye testing, your eyes don't pass, you're out. I was like, oh. So here I am. Do I spend, at the time, it was $3,500 to get my eyes correct.
My goodness. And
my wife and I had a heart-to-heart discussion. And I knew that if I didn't take the opportunities knocking, if I didn't follow through on this opportunity, I would have regret.
Right? For the rest of your life. Yeah.
And I can't live with regret. So I go meet the eye surgeon. He says, yes, we do one eye. Then a month later, we do the other eye. And I said, no, I don't have that much time. Yeah. Thursday, is open on your schedule. I'm coming in. You're going to do both eyes together. And we're going to go for 3 days, I was bumping into things and so on.
But you did it.
But I did it. I did it and rode that wave. And when I graduated as a class valedictorian, there was a lot of media press around it. There was a lot of controversy about the program for political reasons. But at the end of the day, of the 33 of us, nobody got a job. None of us were hired. And I went, so down I go again, right? What a roller coaster of an experience. So they had said, we will hire. We wanted a list of applicants that are ready to go at a moment's notice. Well, like I said, married, 2 children, mortgage, car payment. I can't wait, right? I need to go. And it really tore me apart until I had a conversation with a good friend of mine. We talked about the martial arts, and this individual inspired me. he was a kung fu guy, and he really inspired me to look towards the martial arts. He had moved away to another province where he was a police officer. And the conversation I had with him, he just put it so plainly. He said, do you want to be a Halifax police officer, or do you want to be a police officer? When you make that decision, the weight will come off your shoulders. What you're struggling with is gone. And that slapped me. That just slapped me. And I said, he's absolutely right. I have come this far, not to just be.
Amen. Now that's what not looking up looks like. Not giving up. Absolutely. Yeah.
So then I all across Canada, I put my resume out, and I decided from a sales perspective, I decided to count the no's. How many rejections did I get? Because I know as a salesperson, your next sale is coming after your last no. So it's just a matter of numbers. So boy, I went to the mailbox every day. Oh, here's another rejection letter. I had a binder that I made that filled up with all of the, and I would look at them. I go, I know success is around the corner. I know it's going to happen. Yeah. And it did. That. And here I am 23 years later loving it. So.
Amazing story. That is what not giving up looks like. You kept on, you kept the hope, you lived, to accomplish your dream. And I'm astounded by how you took those letters and you put them in your ledger and you said, well, I'm one step closer to my yes. I'm one step closer to my yes. I'm one step closer to my yes. And it's really that attitude of hope and perseverance and resilience. And that is what we need in community as well. Not only just in our personal lives, we need that in community as well. That got you to the place where you're at today. You're a living example of not giving up. Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Wonderful. And here you are you're still in law enforcement.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
That's I almost said Afrikaans word now. I almost said this baie oulik, baie goed, baie wonderlik. It's wonderful. It's amazing. It's just real. Now my next question is, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made as a leader? Because I mean, we've talked about failure, we've talked about disappointments. We can't be a novice at everything we do or every project we do for the first time. So sometimes we make mistakes. If you think back on your life, or in the years that in whichever role you fulfilled, what was the biggest mistake you made as a leader?
Oh boy. Again, it's something I can't put to one specific example, but it's, I'm going to say one of the biggest, maybe it's regrets, which brings about the mistake, is not giving 100%. So you and I are involved in a project. Yeah. Maybe if I put a little more effort, or, maybe I'm only given 75%, and therefore I only get those results. And I think when I look back on things, there's stuff that I could have done much better if I would have had more confidence and commitment from myself, because I think that shows with others, right? I look at, as a recent example, somebody that I work with in policing, where we were both fraud detectives in the fraud branch. And he really opened my eyes to things, because he did everything 100%. He was committed to everything that he did. And I would, every once in a while, I'd kind of just float along, right? Knowing I could have done, could I do more? Yeah. Is this enough to get by? Yeah. And I look at his commitment, and it wasn't just commitment to the job. I think at the end, it was commitment to himself. He was committed to being whole in everything that he did. One day I remember we were sitting, we had cubicles, our desks were back to back, and I had done something, and I was like, oh, how could I be so stupid? Like, just that's the self-talk, right? That I think a lot of people have, and they don't really realize that they're saying these. Well, he spun around his chair. He put his hand on my shoulder and he says, "Never say that." I go, "Say what?" I wasn't even aware that I had made that comment.
Yeah.
He goes, "No, you are not stupid. You are not stupid. Clear that from your mind." And ever since that day, I am cognizant of my self-talk, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is a big difference of floating along or sailing, right?
Yes.
He certainly sails.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I know you are very innovative. We think back of the things that you've accomplished in your life, the projects that you've started, how they just explode, how they're always successful. And my question to you, and I'm very interested to hear the answer, is what is next for you? What are you working on? What's next?
That's wow. My wife and I have such a big list of things that are all coming together at the same time. So I like to look at goals. I like to plan things that way. Our big goal, and it's all related, everything is woven together, is we're really excited for our retirement, which is going to be in under 3 years.
Yes.
To the point that we have purchased a large parcel of land back in Nova Scotia. We're going to build our dream home on it. So we've spent lots of time preparing and planning out what this dream property is going to look like. And now that's transferred into the next phase where now I have an engineer that's designing the project for us. But this is all part and parcel as how do I get there effectively? Yeah. And with that, I'm in the process of starting a business on the side of my full-time work based on my love of motivation. I love what I'm doing here with Mo Mondays.
Yeah.
And I want to continue with that. But I also feel that there's a need or a necessity with just inspiration in general. Mm-hmm. And about a year ago, my wife and I were talking about this. And for me, again, it comes down to your heart. I am a big t-shirt guy. I love t-shirts. When I was a kid, I would, mom would buy me a t-shirt and it would have some silly, little cowboy or something on it. And I just loved these crazy t-shirts. When I was a teenager, I would airbrush. And I would airbrush t-shirt designs, things like that, just as something to pass the time. So I've always been fascinated by t-shirts. So what I want to do, and what I'm in the planning stages of, which I'm hoping I'll be launching within the next month, is a business called Inspired Minds. Wow. And Inspired Minds is going to be, there's enough negativity in the world. We don't need to bring that to the fore. We see it everywhere. We watch the news. There's nothing positive on the news, right? Everything is negative. Why are people walking around with t-shirts with negative sayings, coffee mugs with things that are rude? They think it's funny, but you know what? That imprints on your mind, and you carry that with you. I'm starting a whole apparel line of clothing that's going to be broken down with positive messages, something that you can wear. You can be a walking billboard of inspiration, right? Brilliant. And one thing I learned with Mo Mondays, and Mo Mondays, I know we didn't talk much about it, but it's an opportunity. It's a live speaking event where average everyday people get up and tell a 10-minute story of something that's been impactful in their life. And most people will say, I'm just average. I don't have anything impactful. And I disagree with that. Everybody is special and unique. Yes. And what you have gone through and survived, I may just be starting that. And I need your inspiration and your positivity that I'm going to get through what you've gone through, whether it was PTSD, suicide, divorce, grief, whatever, or some of the happy stuff, my children's wedding, whatever. And you're at the back of the room going, I don't know if I'm going to make it through my kid's wedding, right? It's good. It's going to happen, right? So I think that just hearing or seeing the message, right? You see billboards every day, right? There's that whole psychology in advertising that subconsciously you see a billboard and it imprints on you. Why not become a walking billboard of inspiration? And that's my inspired mind. Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. And you know what I was thinking while you were describing what you're going to do? I wanted to tell you, your project is also community work because you're spreading that positivity, bringing that upliftment, speaking to people, to their hearts. And I know it's going to be very successful, as were all the other projects, because you're anointed for this and you're a servant leader and your heart is there and you do it because you want to uplift others. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to watch this space. I'm looking forward to seeing you launch, and I'll cheer you on every step of the way.
I appreciate that. I love that. So, good.
And yes, thank you. And I can't believe we are at the last question. I mean, where did the time go, really? Last question. Can you believe that? And that would be, any words of wisdom for the audience?
I think words of wisdom are probably words that I live by, that drive me every day. And it's be a servant leader. Help others, right? Right. I always look at adding value, not receiving value. When I'm speaking with you, I want to pour value into you and hopefully fill your cup. And when I deal with people, I try to do that, whether it's holding a door open for somebody, intentionally making eye contact when I walk and I meet somebody and smile. I just spent the last month every day posting my attitude of gratitude every single day, the last 31 days. And it was the little thing that I had gone through in the day. I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to teach. I'm here to share. So this is what happened, and this touched my heart. And I'm grateful for the experience, but I'm also grateful for the ability to recognize that this is for a reason, right?
Wow.
The people I deal with, the customers I deal with at work that are struggling, that are looking for help, that are looking for guidance, they've come to me because they can't handle it on their own. What can I pour into them to help them over this hurdle? Not a quick fix, but something so that they can learn from it and they can develop and grow in every experience. So that's me. I can't tell you how to live your life. I can't tell anybody else how to live their life. I can just share my experiences and maybe help somebody along the way.
Amen. And I know you are helping a lot of people. And I just want to say from my side, you have definitely poured in a tremendous amount of value into Meticulous Moments, the audience, the people that they know. I mean, this is so far reaching. And I just want to say thank you for a phenomenal interview. Thank you for your time, your expertise, your knowledge. Thank you for the laughter. It's always wonderful to spend time with you. I believe laughter is medicine. So we really appreciate you. And I'm definitely going to invite you back to Meticulous Moments.
Wonderful. And you know what? I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you and the opportunities that have caused us to come together, which 6 months ago would never have happened, right? You took a leap of faith and you joined an online organization. I did the same thing 6-7 months ago, and I've met so many people, and now, my cup overflows with the connections, right? Mo Mondays has taught me that when we went through the pandemic, we went from an onstage live event to a virtual event. And that was life-changing for me, because now I realized I'm not just this little circle. There's a whole big world out there, and it's making the connections and the ability to share my story on your stage virtually is heartwarming, right? Of all the people that you have asked to come on, I am honored that you've chosen me. So thank you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. It's a privilege. It's an honor to be your friend and your connection. And I just speak blessings over you and your family. And we are going to cheer you on. To the Meticulous Moments audience, we are going to follow you on social media. We're going to network with you. We're going to make your details available at the end of the session. And we are going to cheer you on as you go on this transformational journey. Thank you so much. We appreciate you deeply.
Well, thank you.
Meticulous Moments audience, you've joined us for this session. It speaks for itself. What wonderful words of wisdom. So many golden nuggets came out of this session. Share it, follow Don, and let's cheer him on as he makes a wonderful impact in the community with the heart of gold that he has. And we'll see you in the next session. Goodbye.